What's up, guys? APTV correspondent Stevie James here, and I'm very excited to be joined by Phil Bozeman from Whitechapel and Eddie Hermida from Suicide Silence. And today's going to be cool because we're going to have a little discussion about the state of metal, the evolution of metal, specifically deathcore and heavy music, and kind of where it started. So I want to start right off the bat with some deathcore artists that are labeled deathcore artists aren't really fans of the label of deathcore. So you two being two individuals that have been in it for a long time and have kind of helped pioneer it, do you like the label deathcore?
It's, for me personally, it's something that's grown on me. Like when I first heard it, I was like, deathcore, man, there's already a metalcore label out there. It's like,
Yeah.
We are more metalcore than deathcore, but I get it.
You're talking back in the All Shall Perish days?
Yeah, back in All Shall Perish days. All the I would say like the original bands that started doing what people call deathcore, we just wanted to be like Dying Fetus and, Morbid Angel, Suffocation,
Yeah.
Internal Bleeding, like all these bands that were like throwing these heavy like we call them breakdowns now, but they were just slams back in the day.
Yep.
It was just dun 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 dun, and then some guy would go do some insane inaudible noise out of his throat, and you're like, okay, cool, like, we just wanted to make this kind of metal. That's what it was. It was like we weren't going, I want to be in a band, deathcore band. So when people started putting the label on it, I remember being like, I don't know what you're talking about. Deathcore? What is this? That's stupid.
We're a metal band. What do you mean?
Yeah, we're a metal band. And through the years, I've just been like, oh, well, that's what it is. It's fine. I'm starting to see how many kids actually associate themselves with deathcore. And still to this day, like, so many kids are so happy to put, I'm a deathcore fan on their Instagram, on their Twitter, on their Facebook. And you're just like, oh, shit, like, you really like deathcore. That's what you associate yourself with. And if that's something that I helped bring to the table and bring to light, then I'll wear it proudly. I'll wear the moniker. Yeah.
Sure. What about you, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, I just personally think like you just either like the music or you don't. You can call it whatever you want to, but I mean, I'm happy to be a part of it because like we've grown up together, doing this. So, I mean, like I'll be happy to be a part of whatever it is, But in my own personal opinion, at the end of the day, metal is metal. It's whether it's deathcore or thrash or whatever you want to call it. It's either you like it or you don't.
It's all under the metal umbrella.
Yeah, and if you like something just because of the title of it, then you're not listening to it for the right reasons. Like if you put on something, you should listen to it, and if you like it, you shouldn't, pick if you like it or not just because of what people have made it out to be. You should like it because your ears like actually enjoyed listening to it. But I mean, I'll be a part of the movement because this is what I chose to do and this is what I enjoy doing. So and we've been doing it for a long time, and I guess you could say we did kind of pioneer, not us, but like us as bands, we're part of that that movement. So it's going to be cool to look back on this in 25, 30 years and be like, wow, I was a part of that.
Well, I mean, I feel like, for instance, like Whitechapel, to speak like specifically about that band, like when you guys hit the scene, it was like a scene that hadn't really flourished yet. You know what I mean? So for me, watching that happen and seeing like how kids that, like I was saying earlier, they started associating themselves with the nomenclature deathcore. They started really like being like, I'm a deathcore kid, and that's how I was with nu metal, and that's how I was with death metal when they first came out. It was
you can argue that's how metal started.
Yeah, it's like
because metal evolved out of something else, and people had to start saying, I'm a metal fan.
Yeah, and I'm gonna listen to other bands that sound like metal. So it's like, as much as like you're right, like if you're listening to something just because it says deathcore on it, you're not really listening to it, and you're not getting what the musician intended, which is to be moved by music. If you're just paying attention to the name, then you should look a little bit deeper. But at the same time, it's like, if it's got a name and other kids are going to listen to your band because it's in a genre or it's in a style, then that's why I said it's like I'll wear it proudly,
Yep.
At the end of the day, it's something that's become something.
Exactly.
So I'm happy with it.
Exactly. One thing that really defines deathcore and heavy music in general is like aggressive vocals, and you guys both being really aggressive vocalists, and you both have like kind of pushed the envelope in terms of screaming lower, screaming higher, screaming dirtier, screaming nastier. How does that kind of come together? How do you push that envelope? Is it something that when you're sitting down to do a new record, is that something you were conscious of? Like, starting with you, Phil, I know like Whitechapel, you started off doing, really brutal vocals, but even as it came on, you started doing faster vocals, and the lows kind of changed tone and experimented with all these crazy layering. So I just kind of want to touch on, is it a conscious effort to push the envelope further, or was it something that just kind of came together for you? Kind of walk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, and part of it too is just challenging yourself, because you don't want to just do the same thing over and over and over again, because you're not moving forward as an artist in general. So I mean, you don't want to continually do the same thing over and over again. It just becomes boring and stale to you. Mm-hmm. So you want to like try new things. That's the whole reason that it's called art, because you want to like constantly go in different directions and experiment with everything. I mean, like, because we started doing like clean singing on the new album. It's like I've always wanted to do that. And I should not have like any sort of I shouldn't be able to not do that. Because like as an artist you should be able to create whatever you want.
Yeah, there's no rules.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, like, there's no rules in art. Whether it's music, whether you draw, whether you whatever you do. And yeah, I mean, I always want to create new things and challenge myself and try to be as versatile as I possibly can.
So was it less about being more brutal and more heavy, like early on before getting into the clean singing stuff, but early on, was it less about being more brutal and more heavy and more about just literally challenging yourself? You weren't necessarily trying to be heavier, you were just trying to do new things, which inevitably ended up being heavier.
Well, I think whenever you're younger and like you're in a band, you're going up against all kinds of other different bands. When you're young, you're like, oh, I want to be the coolest. Like that's just that's natural. Like being a kid, like you want to be the coolest, you want to be the best at what you do. But I mean, I just did what I did, and people happen to like it, and I just tried my best to do like, because I know that I'm more known for like lower tone stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so like I tried my best to be the best I could be at it, and tried to be the best at it, and whether I am or not, that's for everyone else to decide. But I definitely wanted to like challenge myself even then, and still now, I want to do different things and become as versatile as I possibly can.
Absolutely. So one thing, you joining Suicide Silence, you replaced a really great vocalist.
Yeah.
So what was the challenge like for you kind of walking into that, to not only, perform songs that he had performed, but also to make new songs and kind of carry on that, the bar was set really high. Yeah. So kind of walk me through your mindset getting into that whole thing.
Well, I toured a bunch with Suicide Silence, so a lot of these songs were, believe it or not, second nature to me, even though I didn't even know it.
You just heard them so many times.
I'd heard them so many times. I'd been right there, taking pictures with people, or like in the pit dancing for them. Like 2006, when you don't care about your life, you're just like, I'll get punched in the face and it doesn't matter. And you're like pitting for each other. You're a fan of each other. You use each other to push the envelope. And I didn't realize that I knew these songs so deeply. And when I first came in, the real challenge for me was the energy, the amount of energy that Mitch would put out into the live show was next level. It was something that I had never really done before, because Mitch would ignore how his voice would sound in order to move the crowd.
Yeah.
He'd be like, I don't care. I'm going to blow my voice out and not be able to sing for the next couple shows because this crowd right here needs to crush.
Yes.
And if they're not moving, I'm going to do everything in my power to move them. So that became something that I had to learn to understand, because when I was in All Shall Perish, I was just striving to better myself. And to better myself is to give the best performance live. It doesn't matter if you're moving around. It was like more of like an Opeth mentality,
Yeah.
Like just kind of sit there and jam.
Just make it good, yeah.
But in heavy music, you have to pump the crowd up.
Yes.
You have to. So that's something that I really learned from being in Suicide Silence. I learned to bring that energy up and to not allow yourself to falter. That's where the real challenge is if one person's sitting there with their arms crossed, not having a good time, my job is to make sure that guy
is moving.
At least bobs his head, And if that happens, then I've succeeded.
You did it.
So that's I would say that's the biggest challenge. Learning the songs, that was easy. I had a lot of support from the guys. They would like put me onto like live videos that they really liked. Listen to the record a bunch. And I'm really good at emulating, so it's like I was able to match tones, and the intensity just came with the songs, and that's what happens every night. Like, I don't know where it comes from. I still say, partly that like Mitch's energy is very much in these songs, and that's kind of like how we keep the ghost alive.
Yeah.
Is just meditating before we go on stage, and then the music starts, and it's just easy to channel and easy to make the music sound the way it sounds. But the energy is something that I have to fully commit to, or else I'm gonna have a bad show.
Absolutely. So to kind of get into some more technicalities from like a vocalist standpoint, you guys play a million shows and you're doing extreme vocals, and you're both are very energetic on stage. So what do you do to kind of maintain not only the your body to bring that energy and headbang and do all the day, but especially your voice? Yeah. What do you do to maintain that?
I think it's slowly breaking down, no matter how much we do.
Yeah. So just delaying the inevitable.
Yeah. I mean, I do like Zenna's screaming stuff. It's like Melissa Cross.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing that for about 5-6 years now, and
was there a point where you had to go, I need to be more professional with my voice and take care of it?
Yeah, because once you start this, like you're basically, you're all fresh in here, so like it's going to be able to take more punishment, but over the years, like it's going to wear down, and it's not going to be able to take it as much. I've noticed, doing this and playing longer sets is a little bit more tiring on my throat and my voice. And I've changed how I do stuff. Just the way like I push air out and everything. But more often than not, I just go up there and do it, and I just warm it up before I do it, just to make sure. It's like whenever you work out, you got to stretch and make sure you're not going to tear something. But I do whatever I can to warm it up. But at the end of the day, we aren't meant to do this. We're not meant to be making these noises. So I just do the best I can and, warm it up before I go on. And then there's like a warm down thing that me and him actually both do. It's like what is it called again?
I don't have any technical names for them. I just it's just I know what you mean.
It sounds like a didgeridoo.
Yeah, it's just throat singing.
Yeah.
It's Mongolian throat singing.
Gotcha.
Tuvin. But yeah, it's a good warm down after a show. It's just kind of it sounds like a didgeridoo. Yeah. I just do it naturally. I forget that that's a part of my routine.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. That's because there's no science to it. There's no like.
It's still kind of a newer thing in the grand scheme of things.
Well, the fact that Melissa Cross came out with this Zenna screaming thing that happened in the last couple of years, it was mind-boggling for me, because there was none of that. There was no there were not vocals like death metal vocals, and then there were not vocals that were really pushing the envelope of the whole spectrum of what a voice can do. Yeah. Which is what we do. We go as high as we possibly can go and as low as we can possibly go, and everything in between. Yep. So it's like there is no book for that. You just have to trial and error it. There's been many days where my voice sounds like this, but with a good warm-up, I sound perfect on stage. And I've seen it, I've been like, no, there's no way I'm going to sing today. And then I'd warm up, and then the adrenaline hits, and you're able to do a lot more, But, as far as the wear and tear over the years, it's, like you said, it's slowly but surely, I get more and more hoarse, I get more and more tired. But, I feel like that happens to, Tony Bennett. It happened to him, his voice changed, throughout his career. Frankie Valli, his voice changed throughout his career, and those guys didn't scream at all. They just talked a lot. So either way, that your voice is gonna deteriorate. The best you can do for vocalists out there that really want to kind of get a understanding of how to preserve your voice, you just make sure you warm up, make sure you warm down. If not, you're gonna blow your voice and continue to blow your voice and continue to blow your voice until you have polyps and you can't sing anymore.
Yeah, that's where I want kids to understand. They say well, your vocals have changed, blah blah blah, and all this stuff. It's just what do you expect? I'm not gonna cut my arm off and it's gonna grow back. It's gonna the damage is done. It's there. There's nothing you can do about it. So that's all you can do is just, like I said, just warm it up.
Just take the best care of it you can.
Because there's been, I won't name names or anything, but there's been vocalists out there that I've talked to. They're like, no, I just go up there and do it, and like they've always lost their voice.
Yep.
Always. So you have to.
Every last one.
Yeah.
As brutal as it sounds, it's delicate at the same time.
Yeah. It's a little flap of skin in between two little stretchy little like they're pieces of cartilage even. They're not bones. So it's like it's gonna fit and not be straight up all the time. I mean, we're on a bus with like recycled air too. It's like you get a little sinus inflammation and you're shot. It ruins the way your voice sounds, and you have to like manipulate it in a different way.
Yeah.
The voice is really like the most fragile instrument on stage, but it doesn't matter. If you, like I was saying, if the energy is behind you, you end up doing a lot of stuff that your body is telling you shouldn't be doing. So
the adrenaline kind of takes over and pushes a little too far.
Kind of a dangerous game to play.
Excellent. So to get a little more reflective, I kind of want to look at when you guys started really rolling with everything, probably 10 years ago or so, maybe a little bit longer. Compared to now, I just want to kind of compare and contrast metal in general from your standpoint in, say, 2006 compared to where it is now. If you can kind of just compare and contrast that. Doesn't have to necessarily mean it was better then or worse now or vice versa, but just what's the main differences that stick out to you over a decade of doing this?
I think a lot of it is like the perception of it. Like whenever you're younger, like, and it's just starting, it's like, it's just like, it's still just as exciting, but like, just it's kind of hard to explain like how I perceive it now compared, I just more in a more mature way now. I think that there's certain aspects that were better and there's certain aspects that weren't. As far as like how you got discovered, back then it was MySpace. MySpace was the best thing ever. I don't like. That was the best way to get discovered.
I don't care what anyone says. MySpace ruled.
For at least for music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's how.
Profile songs and everything, the whole nine.
Now,
Justin Bieber, Phil Bozeman, front cover MySpace. What's up?
like Facebook, I don't even understand it. Like maybe the kids nowadays do, but in 10 years they won't understand the new thing. But as far as I'm concerned, MySpace was like the best thing that could have happened to. Especially bands like us that... The
more underground bands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. Social media shaped a lot of how bands got discovered, but I think the state now, personally with deathcore, I just think it's gotten ridiculously heavy. Like, it used to be that there wasn't anybody heavier than Suicide Silence, and now you've got Whitechapel, Oceano, like Carnifex is even like, I'm watching these guys bands playing. I'm like, oh damn! How are we gonna crush these kids tonight after they've just been annihilated 4 times over? So I say that it's gotten a lot heavier. There's a lot more comfort in the scene. The kids don't feel like they're gonna be judged for wearing tighter pants and having a swoop haircut while they jam, Pierce the Veil at night and Whitechapel. It's the commonality between the punk rock world and death metal world has reached a good melting point, and I feel like now there's a lot more comfort in that. And there's, like I was saying, at first I didn't like the name deathcore, but now I'm like I'm with it. I understand it a lot more, and I understand it from a fan's standpoint, not a musician's. No, that's not what I was going for. So in the end, it's like I really think that the state now. It's kind of at a boiling point where music has gotten to the heaviest it could possibly get.
Can it get any heavier?
It's like, I think it can, but I think it'll become heavier because the bands will start realizing that we're already established and we can take it to the next level. And deathcore was always about that. Deathcore was about melting together all the styles of music.
Originally there were no rules. The only rule was make it ridiculous. Like,
you look at
break
bands
the
like
rules.
Attila, Immure. Both those bands are incorporating heavy hip hop styles into our deathcore sound, and that's fine. It sounds good, Acacia Strain is one of the originators of, that bouncy, like straight up slam into parts that are a little bit more hardcore and punk rock. That's also deathcore to me. So it's like, the fact is, I feel like bands are becoming a little bit more expressive and becoming a little bit more self-aware of the fact that the deathcore is a thing, and now I feel like it's gonna expand.
Starting to reach out of there.
Yeah, like especially with Suicide Silence, I know that in the last like couple of months we've, I would say that we've lost our minds and jumped off of a really really steep cliff. You know, we are going to be pushing the envelope as far as like what we're doing as artists. You know, like Phil was saying earlier, it's like you get tired of doing the same thing over and over again, so you want to do something that's going to challenge you as a musician. Me as a singer, what's going to challenge me is believing in myself, because I've that's one of the things that I've always not done. That's why I hide behind the scream, and that's why I hide behind the mentality of keeping the death metal integrity and all these things that like honestly don't matter, because kids just want to hear music. So that's one thing that I know Suicide Silence is doing, and Whitechapel has done it. You know, they sang on their last record. It's that's the beginnings of the expansion, I feel.
Was it more of like it's kind of cool because you guys are kind of both in the same spot career-wise for your bands. Like you just started singing on this new record. Haven't heard your new record yet, but you're alluding to some things.
Oh yeah.
So was it just a maturation, or was it more of like it's time? Starting with you, Phil, which was it? Were you like, I've always wanted to sing, let's do it now, or how did that all come together? To take those steps.
I mean, I think you get to the point where you're just like, this is our 6th album, so it's like, you get to the point where you're just like, okay, like, what are we going to do to make this one different from the last one? Because it's what we try to do. We try to, like, make every album different and, not be the same rinse and repeat, because we don't want to be Whitechapel from 2006 for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, is like, kids need to understand that we play in heavy bands, but that doesn't mean like that's the only type of music we like. Like, I listen to metal very, very rarely, and not because I don't like it, it's just because I'm around it constantly.
You're submerged in it, yeah.
So, and I mainly listen to like hip hop and stuff like that. That's where like I listen to like a lot of 3-6 Mafia whenever I was younger, and I still do.
Excellent.
And that's where a lot of like the fast stuff came in.
Yeah.
Like,
3-6 is one of the most metal rap groups. You gotta give it to them for that.
And like all like those like southern like rappers, like they did like like a lot of the fast stuff and everything. But I just
You're in Cleveland, Bone Thugs. You gotta tell me.
Yeah, and like of course, Bone Thugs was like a huge influence on me. I heard that first album, was it back in 95, 94, 95?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, all that stuff, like, influenced me. Like, I'm really into, like, Northeast rap and, down South rap. But either way, I just, I don't know. I think it was time for us to just be like, okay, let's do something that people aren't going to expect. Because whenever they look at our band, like, they think, evil, heavy, like all the time. It's just like, no, we still feel emotion. We're not evil
always
people.
Angry.
Like, we still cry whenever sad things happen. We still, smile whenever.
Dude.
Breaking news: Whitechapel cries.
Whitechapel cries. Oh my God! Dude, 3 kids just jumped off of a bridge.
Yeah, I mean, it's just people have to understand that, like, we don't have to be brutal all the time just because that's the kind of music that we started out writing.
That's one thing I've said too, is they assume a heavy band listens to heavy music all the time, but that's like asking a professional basketball player, what do you do for fun? You just play basketball, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, of course not. You know what I mean? There's a lot of other stuff to dive into.
Yeah, I mean, there's more to life to us than just this.
Yes.
Like this is what we do for a living, and we do it because we enjoy it. But I mean, we still like to, we still dive into other things.
Music. We're
humans.
Like music in general. Exactly.
I will say that as a precursor, before, I remember in 2011, I was asking, like, the Black Crown had come out, and I was on tour with Mitch, and I was asking him, I was like, what are you going to do on the next one? You know what I mean? Like, and he's all like, well, I'm taking voice lessons with Melissa Cross. Like, I really want to sing on the next record. And for me, that was always something that was like, whoa, like, Mitch is even thinking about this
Yeah.
right now. It's like I was in All Shall Perish at the time, and I was already singing, and I was
Yeah.
already doing different stuff, and it was like it was way more metal, and it was still very much like not fully committing to the verse chorus singing aspect of metal that I really like. You know, Judas Priest being one of my favorite bands. You know,
Yep.
it's like there is no screaming on that other than a bunch of really really high.
It's a different kind of screaming.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, when you're challenging yourself and you're not fully jumping in, it's something that you look to your peers to kind of see where they're at, and you're like, oh, well, I sang a little bit on this record. You know, what is this guy gonna do? And yeah, Mitch was already like in the mindset of like I want to push the envelope. You know, Black Crown had Jonathan Davis singing a chorus
Yep.
that Mitch wrote. You know, and the band was already kind of moving in that direction. So when we wrote "You Can't Stop Me," it was we had asked ourselves, do we want to do this? Do we want to jump in and do something really different right now? And the vibe was totally no. Let's pay homage to Mitch and let's do a record that, you know, pays respects to the deathcore sound that we've helped, you know, motivate and cultivate. And this record, that was it. It was, we already did the last record with Mitch. Now it's time to do a record as this new form of Suicide Silence that is going to move forward for the rest of our careers, our lives, basically. And yeah, it was time. I feel like death metal, even in all of its facets, it's become way too perfect, way too sterile. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we are underground punk rockers, and underground punk rockers always have somebody beating them down to be like, no, you have to stay there, and you have to be this, and you have to be that. And ultimately, no, we don't have to. We're going to push the envelope, and we're going to become something new. And you don't have anything to say on that,
Yep,
because
can't stop me.
it's my voice, dude. It's my voice, not yours, you know? And if you like it, you like it. If not, I don't care. I've done everything in my power to do something that means the world to me. And I feel like that's what we're all doing. And now we're just expressing it in a different way. We're a little bit older. You know, I'm a little less mad, you know? I'm a little bit more sad. I've gotten all the anger out, and I'm in the second stage of grief. I'm depressed, all right? so yeah, man, it's 100% what, you know, a mixture of what we're both saying. And we're not the only bands that feel that way.
Sure.
Everybody that I talk to is really searching to seek something else. You know, Carnifex, they've really delved into the, you know, the show aspect, and, you know, building this large set, and, you know, creating this black metal overtone, really evil overtones into their deathcore, and kind of steering away from being the heaviest band and more going for we're the most artistic. And I respect that, you know, like you're doing something different. You're creating a monologue in your head for what's going on. So all that stuff it's pushing the envelope. It's making deathcore be something different.
Talking to you guys, it sounds like deathcore is probably in a better state than it's ever been, almost because everyone's not stepping away from deathcore, but evolving out of deathcore, which is awesome. So I got to talk about the tour you guys are on before we close out here, the Highway to Hell tour.
Straight Out of Hell.
Straight Out of Hell tour, sorry. Straight Out of Hell tour. Heaviest tour, it's so heavy it has my mind all messed up. It's Oceano, Carnifex, Despised Icon, Whitechapel, Suicide Silence. How has the tour been so far? I'm going to see it tonight. I can't wait. Just what have the crowds been like? What has it been like with 5 of just like some of the biggest bands of the genre sharing the stage every night?
It's been incredible. Like a lot. I was expecting a lot more of kids being too tired to move, because, you know, you go so hard for one band, and then you need a band that's like going to give you something different in order to go hard for the next band, and every band is just annihilating. Right? It's destruction from the moment the show starts to the very end, and the kids are keeping up. They're stoked. They're fired up.
They've been eating their Wheaties.
Yeah, they're showing up in big numbers. People believe in this tour. People believe in all the bands. The merch is selling great. You know, it's altogether a perfect tour. It's a tour that waited, honestly, in my opinion, too long to come together and do. But every band has toured together in some facet or another.
Sure.
So it's happened in so many ways. But this tour, I don't know, for whatever reason, it's
Brought it all together.
really perfect. It's working well.
Excellent. How about from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, Despised Icon is actually one of those bands that honestly influenced us. You know, I mean, I consider them to be like the pioneer of this type of music.
Okay.
But yeah, they're actually just joining tonight. So
Oh,
you guys,
perfect.
Yeah, you guys are lucky. You guys get to catch
Literally
us,
the
so.
perfect date.
So they're gonna be on for I think like the next 5 or 6 shows,
Okay.
and then you know they're hopping off to I don't know what they're doing, but yeah, I mean like you know Carnifex and Oceano, you know they both came up like shortly after you know Suicide Silence and us, and you know but like I said, Despised Icon to me is like they are the pioneer of this type of music, and I'll always think that. But I mean. You know, I mean, it's been great though. I mean, it's exactly what I expected, and you know, like he said, it's kind of a tour that should have happened probably multiple times by now. But you know, there's you know, you go off in your career and you know you do certain things, and to better you know, because you're not focused on doing that. You're focused on bettering your band, you know, as a whole. But you know, it definitely should have happened probably like 07, 08 or something like that, you know. But,
Better late than never.
Yeah,
I'll
but
take
I mean,
it.
it's cool, you know. Either way, I mean, it's pretty cool to do it now because you know, like we've grown up together, we've you know played shows together. We haven't actually done a tour together, but let's do it now, you know. And like people are you know flipping out about it, you know. As soon as people saw that we were touring together, they were like, "Oh my God, finally!"
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, you know,
Yeah.
well worth the wait, I guess.
You know, one thing that I will say is I really miss the fact that bands like Animosity and Joffrey Cowboy, even like Winds of Plague and the Mirror aren't on this tour just because obviously you can't stick 15 bands on a tour and think that you're gonna have a solidly functioning technical tour. But as far as like the fans go, it would be so sick to have those bands on, especially with what this tour really esoterically. It's a tour that's more or less saying, "Hey, we're here. This is what we used to do, and now we're moving forward." And now, all these bands that we mentioned that are on this tour, like you know, Carnifex, Whitechapel, us, we're 3 bands that have been discussing how we're going to move this sound, this entity forward. Even though we're not really like sitting there like in a brain room or in a think tank about how we're gonna do it. You know, whenever we meet up on the road, you know, we have these discussions of like, man, don't you listen to like Tool? Like, don't you jam like this? Don't you like 3-6 Mafia? It's like, yeah, we all love this stuff. Like, you know, you walk into a backstage room and Alex is playing the Eagles, you know, and you're like, well, why don't we ever explore those avenues? You know, so I feel like that's kind of what's going on right now with this tour specifically. It's just saying, hey, Deathcore was this, and now it's time to move forward, and this is our kind of like, I don't know, stamp on our careers and saying, hey, we're still here, we're still vibing, we're still thrashing, we're still killing it.
Excellent. All right, well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to sit down with us today. Can't wait to check out the show tonight. Beyond excited. Eddie Hermida with Suicide Silence and Phil Bozeman with Whitechapel. I'm Stevie James for APTV. Thanks for watching, guys.